Mixed cultures in Gibraltar, from time and time gone by, have always lived together, respectful side by side. Religions each call God by many different names. No matter what each call him, they all just mean the same. A British way of thinking and God's sincere souls have welcomed nationalities that mingle with us close. The rock is very solid. It welcomes everyone. We celebrate all feast days together and with joy. A British way of thinking and our sincere souls have welcomed nationalities that mingle with us close. Let us be an example for years and years to come, as we welcome other nations with our charitable hearts. And so join with us in song from one end to another, and show the world at large mixed cultures like no other.
And I have to credit Philip Borge, local Gibraltarian singer, for those wonderful vocals, and the words, the lyrics were actually written by our guest tonight, and the music by Dennis Valerga. I also have to credit Mr. Abdelhani Kukus for the editing of all that footage. So let me introduce our guest. She was born in Ballymena, Northern Ireland. Her late father was born in Larache, Morocco. She worked for GBC as radio and television presenter. She presented many Miss Gibraltar pageants. Whilst working for GB Airways, she was the public relations and advertising manager in charge of Morocco. She has worked and lived in Monaco and the Bahamas. She started the first modeling school in Gibraltar, the first newspaper specifically for women, wrote reviews for local newspapers, has published a number of books, including one with her granddaughter Stella, the founder and strength behind the bosom buddies cancer trust. She is a poet and loves photography. In 2013, she was awarded the British Empire Medal. She is no other than Sonia Golt. Good evening, Sonia, and welcome to my cultural exchange.
Good evening, Henry. Thank you very much for having me here and for that wonderful introduction.
What a pleasure, Sonia, it is for me to be hosting this cultural event from the other pillar of Hercules, this time from Tangier itself. Sonia, you started with Gibraltar Broadcasting Corporation as a radio and TV presenter. What was it like in those days?
Yes, that's correct. And that's a long time ago. I was very young at the time. Well, television was great fun. It was live. Everything was live. And in a way, you were thrown in at the deep end and you found yourself trying to learn on the job. And it was exciting. You had to not only present shows, but you also have to do the presentation of daily programs. You also even had to help the producer to set up the stage, the studio, which of course at the time there were no digital format, so it was impossible to put a backdrop to it. So you had to do things yourself, and vases of flowers and pictures and things like that. And as I said, it was fun, it was exciting, it was different, it was new. And we also did a lot of adverts. Those were live as well. And
wow.
Sorry?
I said, wow.
And they were also miming. We did a lot of miming programs. And for those types of programs, you needed to rehearse a lot, because people were watching your mouth as you sang the song, imitating the person that they chose that evening. And of course, you had to rehearse, and that was also a lot of fun. And sometimes when I recall it, it's a pity, really, that there's not a lot on the archives. That's a pity.
I actually remember seeing you impersonating Rafaela Carrà at the Rock Hotel swimming pool.
Yes, and probably you were you there at the Rock Hotel yourself?
No, I saw you on television at the time. I was very much younger.
Yes, of course. I forgot about that. But then when we did it at the Rock Hotel, that was a lot of fun as well, because there was an audience. And a lot of the other songs, we had studio audience, but there we had people who didn't know who I was. And probably, I'm sure, they thought I actually was Rafaela Carrà. So I really enjoyed doing that. It was lovely, good fun.
What were the Miss Gibraltar pageants that you presented like in those days?
They were in a way similar to nowadays, although also different in other ways, in the sense that the contestants were chosen by the judges basically and mainly because of their physique and their beauty. At the time, we didn't do dancing and singing like they do nowadays. We chose local singers and local dancers, and we have a lot of professionals here as well. And that we also brought over, I recall, not all the names, but I recall some of the famous people who came over for each show. And we had the singer Kathy Kirby, who was very famous at the time. We also had the wonderful group, the Flirtations. And I loved the way they sang and the way they presented themselves and danced. And we also brought, from Tangier, actually, we brought a group, Moroccan folk music group called the Ganawas. And they were so much fun when they came into the caves, because most of the shows were done in St. Michael's Cave, the ones I did anyway. When they came into the caves, the acoustics are fantastic. So with the music and the drums and the bells and all that, everybody was standing up and singing, and it was difficult to have to tell them to to stop because we needed to continue with the show, but we've never forgotten them. There were, I wonder whether the younger version of the Ganawas is still around. I'm not sure.
And who can forget those famous sets and fountains by the late Norman Cummings?
Absolutely. All those things is what I said before, that they incorporated their ideas like a stage. And St. Michael's Cave, to me, even though there are fantastic other venues in Gibraltar, but because of the beauty of the lighting, of the acoustics, as I mentioned before, we had a live band, and that was absolutely incredible. As you well know, we do a lot of concerts at St. Michael's Cave, and that's precisely why, because I feel the acoustics are extremely good. So yes, it was exciting moments in my time when I was quite young myself.
St. Michael's Cave certainly holds a special part in every Gibraltarian's heart. If you had to stay with one Mr. Gibraltar pageant, which one would it be and why?
You're telling me from my time?
Yes, your time.
It's difficult to say because we had so much fun with the contestants. We went out with them, we talked to them, we coached them. There was a lot of interaction with them. And I knew a lot of them because I, as I said, was more or less the same age as them. So I knew them from school or from going out with some as friends. So really, I don't think I can pick one, and my memory is not that wonderful anyway to recall which was the one that I enjoyed the most. What I do recall is that in 1970, I was pregnant when I presented and produced the Miss Gibraltar show, and that, of course, I haven't forgotten.
Wow. And incidentally, that year, your cousin Carmen was crowned Miss Gibraltar. Carmen Gomez.
So it was all in the family.
Yes. Sonia, you opened the first modeling school in Gibraltar. Tell us about that.
Yes, well, let me go back a bit. I was working and I found that I wanted to start a business. And I thought, what sort of business can I start in Gibraltar? And I heard a lot of young girls, mostly girls at the time, telling me that they loved modeling and that their only way of being able to model in Gibraltar was by doing charity shows, which there were many, and they did a lot of those. But that made me think, and I remember Karina Hollands talking to me about it as well. I recall that she said that, and I thought, well, this would be maybe a good business because I would do something I enjoyed because I enjoyed the modeling aspect of it, and I would also be able to pay the girls something, which meant that they wouldn't be just doing charity shows all the time. So that's exactly what I did. And when I opened it, that was in 1991, I had, believe it or not, that it was in Main Street. My address was 123 Main Street when I opened the first office. And outside in Main Street, you had a lot of journalists waiting to see what was happening for the inauguration. And we had 160 models.
Wow.
That was a big group. And some boys came along as well, maybe not initially, but as we kept on teaching them and giving them modeling classes, as makeup classes, even hairdressing classes, we got people in who came and gave them the courses so that they would be able themselves to do everything if they had to for a fashion show. And then we had a lot of males coming. A lot of male came, and from then on, I believe that it caught on. And there were a lot of young guys around taking part in shows, our shows and other shows as well. And we did a lot of TV work. We did a lot of public relations work. I took that side as well, and I taught some of the young people how to deal with the staff and with the guests in functions. When there was a shop opening or there was a big event, they would call us, and the girls would go with me, and sometimes the boys as well. And it was good fun for them, and it was money making for them as well, because we paid them for everything that they did. And because of the public relations side of it, I think a lot more males came as well. And that's how it started. And then they got excited about the modeling too.
Sorry,
Go
carry
ahead.
on.
Go ahead.
I distinctly remember one photo shoot which I took part in, which we went to San Roque Golf Club, and that was so much fun. It really was.
Exactly. That's another thing that I must mention. We not only had young models, we had models of all ages,
Yes.
because we did photo shoots for hotels, for brochures, for yachts. And we did a lot of work as well. We went to Malaga, to Marbella, to Algeciras, and as far as Greece.
Wow.
I can't remember what the year was, but I recall that the government of Gibraltar asked us to take care of the stand, the yacht and boat stand in Piraeus, near Athens. And of course, there we went with those beautiful uniforms that my PR ladies wore, which were designed by a very well-known, as you know him too, Eduardo Viotto.
The late Eduardo Viotto, yes.
And those were fantastic, and they were red and white, obviously, because of the colors of the Gibraltar flag. And that, when we went there, we had so much fun. We really enjoyed it, but we did a very good job. And I think it was very attractive for people to come to the Gibraltar stand, because of seeing all these lovely looking girls in those beautiful uniforms.
I have to say that you were a great influence for a lot of people in Gibraltar. And if I can take you back to 1995 Miss Gibraltar pageant, because of your modeling agency, it was the year where the most contestants entered. There was a total of 21 girls entered the Miss Gibraltar pageant in 1995, which incidentally, the Gibraltarian international star Albert Hammond came and sang in the pageant.
I do recall it. Of course I recall it, yes. And as you say, a lot of the girls that were in the agency decided to go ahead. I mean, they already had a bit of practice. They knew how to carry themselves. So that was one less hurdle they had. So they did enter that competition. It's true.
Sonia,
very good.
You also started the first woman newspaper in Gibraltar. Oh, we have somebody saying greetings from New York. Oh, hello, Daryl. Thank you for joining us all the way from New York. And he says, we love Sonia. Used to work with her all the way from the United States of America, Sonia.
Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you, Daryl, for this, for sending me your love and your support. Wonderful.
He says, as cabin crew for GB Airways, she was our utmost best colleague. Wow, I'm sending you 4 kisses. Thank you, Daryl, very much.
Thank you, Daryl. That is something I didn't know, but I appreciate it, because I think when you work with people, if you get on with them, life is far easier. Thank you, Daryl. I remember you too. Happy New Year to you.
And we have Brahim Krikas saying, welcome, Sonia. So glad to have you with us. Thank you, Brahim. So back to your newspaper, Sonia. How did the idea come about to start an all-woman newspaper in Gibraltar?
I had a lot that I wanted to write about. And even though I was writing for a lot of local magazines and newspapers, I wanted to see what it would be like to be the editor. And I at the time I also had the model agency, so obviously there was a lot of things happening, photography, and I wanted to push the girls, and this was a wonderful
Platform,
avenue
yes.
to use, and that is why precisely I started, and I got a few other people involved in it, and we started it, and I must say it went on for only a year, because at the time is when I left afterwards. So, but I did do it for 12 months, and maybe 13 or 14 months, and I really enjoyed doing it, and it was fantastic. Sometimes it was difficult to find, because it was weekly. It was difficult
Yes.
to find enough things to talk about, but we always did. We always did find them.
My next question, Sonia, regarding you leaving Gibraltar. What did your job entail in the Bahamas? Because you did go to Bahamas to work.
I did go there, yes. It was working for some very wonderful people who had a very big company, which is Bacardi. And I worked with them, and I did a lot of their functions. I did PR work, and I was also accompanying the lady of the house, who happened to have a lot of interests similar to mine, and we got on like a house on fire. So that was a lot easier for me because of that. And she liked poetry, and she liked photography, and she liked speaking languages and painting, and most of the hobbies that I like myself. So there was a good rapport between us, and we enjoyed that a lot. So when I initially went for 6 months and thought that would be it, actually it was for 8 years. And following that, a few years later, with the same family, I traveled to Monaco and spent another 4 years with them as well. So all in all, about 16 years together. So when she passed away, it was very hard for me, and I felt it a lot. But that was the end of that job for me too. And that's when I came back to Gibraltar again.
And I'm sure you must have done an amazing job, knowing how professional you are and how well organized you are. Sonia, you come back to Gibraltar and you publish a number of books. Tell us about the books that you've published, especially the one which I know is very dear to you, which you published jointly with your granddaughter Stella.
That's right. Well, initially I started writing poetry, and decided to publish some books on poetry. I did. I published 3. But of course, poetry is something that not everybody loves and enjoys. A lot of people just like to read 1 or 2 of them, but they wouldn't really want to read a whole book. But then after that, in Gibraltar, there's a lot of people who write poetry. So I thought it would be a good idea to do a compilation of poetry with other poets. And that's another of the books that I did. And
well, we have to mention.
Sorry?
At this stage that your late father was also a great poet.
Yes, indeed. My father was the one who actually inspired me, even though, believe it or not, but one would think that I had started writing poetry when I was young, but that wasn't the case. I started writing poetry when I was about 40 years old. And that is when I decided to also keep going what my father had taught me, which was every day he read a poem to me or something he had written. So I got involved, and then by the time I decided to write, I was well into it, and that's why I did it. And then there was another book which I wrote, which was a novel. And of course, as you said, the best for me, the best of all, was undoubtedly the one with my granddaughter, because I wanted her to learn to read at bedtime. So I was reading to her every day. And then when I got tired of reading, I would say, now it's your turn to tell me a story. And she would, and she had these amazing ideas, and I started to write them on a little notebook. And the days that I didn't write them on a little notebook, she would say, why haven't you written that one down? So she made sure that I didn't forget anyway. And that's when I decided that we could do something together. She would tell me the stories and I would write them. And it was her who decided she wanted to do it for research into childhood cancer. So we
Amazing.
sold
Fantastic.
a lot of books and donated the money for that.
Sonia, you also hosted on GBC, Gibraltar Broadcasting Corporation, a whole series on poetry, where you had guests, other local poets as your guests from the program. How did that come about, and how much did you actually enjoy it?
Yes, that was when I really found out that there was so much interest in poetry in Gibraltar because of that. I found that there were a lot of people who wanted to publish and who hadn't, and therefore I wanted to give them that incentive by doing that compilation of poetry. And it was wonderful to listen to the amazing works that people had written and had put them inside a drawer and not talked about them again, which is, a real pity. If you've got a talent and you can do this, you can write or you can paint or you can play music or you can dance, whatever, share it with others, because there are a lot of people who would enjoy it. And I think that that program gave me the opportunity to meet other people, other fellow poets, and to also give them that opportunity to talk about their poetry and to express themselves in a poetic way. So I think the program went down well.
It was very successful, I remember. Sonia, if I can now take you back, you get diagnosed with breast cancer, and you don't tell a soul because the wedding of your son, and the day after the wedding, you inform your closest and dear experience that must have been for you. And what I have to mention is that you turned out what could have been quite a negative experience into a very positive thing, because as a result of your experience, you created the Bosom Buddies Cancer Trust in Gibraltar. How did the idea come to you?
Well, the idea came because being diagnosed with breast cancer and being lucky to have come out of it, and I can talk about it. I thought that there were a lot of people out there who might like to be able to talk with others, but not in a negative way about your illness, because once you've gone through it and once you've talked about it with professionals, etc., what you want is to learn about other people, how they've coped with their lives after that. And this is when I thought, well, I've got to do something that they can do this, but at the same time enjoy. And because of my background in modeling and fashion shows and things like that, and because I was called in Bahamas to take part in a fashion show, and I thought that they had called me because it was for cancer. And then I realized that that was not the case, but that gave me the idea. And I said, this is what I'm going to do. When I come back to Gibraltar, I want to start a charity and have all the breast cancer survivors take part if they wish to, and do things for them that will enhance their self-esteem, etc., which was, of course, having your makeup done and your hair and dressing up beautifully and rehearsing and the music, all that helped. And I think that a lot of the bosom buddies have enjoyed themselves so much that we're all looking forward to the next one, whenever that will be, because with what's going on at the moment, we're not very sure that we're even going to be able to produce a show this year. But we're not going to lose hope. You never know.
Absolutely, absolutely. And of course, you have been producing the Bosom Buddies show for 15 years.
15 years indeed. And it would have been wonderful had we been able to do it last year as an anniversary of the 15 years of the Bosom Buddies Cancer Trust. But as I said before, it was not possible. But the show is there. We've got the ideas. We've more or less got it planned. So once we're given the go-ahead, we might be able to put that same show on stage. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that will happen better sooner than later.
I have been very close witness to the enjoyment that the ladies have had over the years, because I've been involved with you in presenting some of the shows. Also, I have to say congratulations, because you've also produced some calendars with the Bosom Buddies.
The calendars was again a source of income, of creating funds for the charity. But again, with the same thing in mind, instead of doing a normal calendar or a calendar with photographs or whatever, why not get the buddies themselves to take part in the calendar? And every time we've done it, it's been a biannual thing. Every time we've done it, they've actually enjoyed it. And we've all dressed up and found costumes and accessories and things to use. And the calendars have gone down extremely well. But what I do recall is going back to the first calendar we ever did, which was the idea was coming from the Calendar Girls, the film.
The film, yes.
And we did it, and that took us a lot of time to convince everybody to do it in the format that we wanted to do the first calendar, similar to the Calendar Girls. But in the end, everybody was convinced. It was done in a very subtle way, and we had the Calendar Girls. And in Gibraltar, we sold all the calendars that we had produced in about 2 weeks. It was marvelous.
I remember also that it was very, very stylishly done, very elegant and very chic. Sonia, for people who may be wondering what it is you raise the money for, where does the money actually go?
Well, a lot of the money goes to the production of different events, of course, and like the show itself, the fashion show. And then we use a lot of that money to help when cancer patients go to UK and they don't have enough money to sustain their stay there. We contribute towards that when they ask us. And we also do special pampering days that we take the buddies who have been going through a lot and take them to spas or to have special meditation classes, ballet classes. We've done yoga, a lot of all the things like that. And of course, the charity pays for all that.
And you've also do make donations to other cancer charities. We have a question from Stephen. Stephen says, as responsible for Morocco when you worked for GB Airways, what are your views on how Morocco could be sold, or if Morocco is very well liked and enjoyed by most Gibraltarians?
Of how Morocco could be sold?
Well, I think what Stephen is asking is how could Morocco as a destination could be better sold to Gibraltarians?
Oh, I think Gibraltarians love Morocco. I think that initially, I know they love it. Of course, it's so different and there's so many things to see. And nowadays, I mean, I recall the last time I was there, which was probably about 2 years ago, that they've done such a wonderful job. Everything looks beautiful and clean, and the amount of hotels that they've done and the promenades. So I would say that if people haven't been lately, that it would be a great chance to go again and see the difference to what it was like when I used to work for GB Airways, and I was in charge of Tangier and Casablanca and Marrakesh, and I had to go often to travel there and meet up with the journalists and meet up with the travel agents. But I think that Morocco is a wonderful place to visit. I mean, as I said, Tangier has changed so much, and just going into that market and seeing all those superb spices, it gets me excited. All those colors, smells, wonderful. I love it.
Sonia, we have Mohammed that says, thank you, Sonia, for sharing your experience with us. Could you please speak a little bit about your experiences with GB Airways? Any special memory about Morocco?
Well, there are many special memories. In the Minza, for example, we used to hold a lot of the things in the Minza in Tangier. And we had functions with the press and with the travel agents, as I said before. And it was exciting to get to know the other side. And we traveled I remember once traveling from Tangier by train to Casablanca. And that was an experience in itself, traveling in the train. And also driving from Casablanca to Marrakesh. And again, another experience, because the drivers, I mean, they go full whack. And in the middle of the roads, when you were driving at full blast, maybe a donkey would cross the road, and that was dangerous. You know, but very exciting moments, I must recall, and beautiful memories of the people I met there, and how nice everybody was to me, I must say.
I always say that the word hospitality was invented in Morocco. We have Abdelghani saying, good evening, Sonia. Thank you, Abdelghani, for joining us. Sonia, one of your other passions is photography, and I know you've actually won prizes, especially the National Day Week competition. What cameras do you use? What inspires you to take those lovely photographs that you take?
What cameras do I use? Oh my goodness, I wish I had a good camera to use. No, I used to have a very good camera, but I left it here when I left, and then when I came back, the batteries had burst inside, so that wasn't very good. So I lost that camera. I use my mobile phone. That's what I use. I don't have a camera as such, but I enjoy photography a lot. I take loads and loads of pictures, and then I choose the one that I think looks the best. So obviously you're only seeing the good ones.
And we also have to mention that your recent publication was a compilation of sunsets taken from your terrace in Gibraltar.
That's correct. And I must say, we've sold every single one of them, and we've made a little bit of money for the Bosom Buddies Cancer Trust this year, because as you know, it has been a difficult year. We haven't been able to have a lot of functions. So this has helped towards creating some funds for the Bosom Buddies Cancer Trust, and it came in really handy. May I say my thanks to Abdelghani for that wonderful video that he's made up for the start of the program. I've really enjoyed the way he's done it, and I want to thank him personally, but because I can't now, I'm doing it here.
but he's online. He's joining us. So there you go, Abdelhani. Thank you very much for your professional edition. We have Alex, Judy from Marrakesh saying, Sonia, soyez le bienvenue, Sonia, which means welcome, Sonia. Through Mr. Henry introduction, you are a TV and radio presenter. What do you prefer more, radio or TV? And what do you enjoy best?
Well, that's a very good question. Thank you very much for asking it. I think I prefer television, or should I say I preferred television, because I was young and it was far easier. But now that you don't want to do a program, specific programs at a certain age, I would say maybe radio. But I love the microphone. I am a person who likes to, as you can see tonight, who likes to talk and to present, and I do like. But so I would say television before and maybe radio now. Thank you for that question.
Yes, thank you for that question. We have Daryl asking, Sonia produced the biggest ever Miss Gibraltar pageant to date. Her books are awesome. We love her poetry. Despite her ordeal with breast cancer, she came out as a beacon of light, tested tenacity, and the utmost spirit of prosperity. We love her here in the United States. We salute her. Thank you very much, Daryl, for those compliments. Sonia, talking of compliments, in 2013, you were awarded the British Empire Medal. Yes, go ahead.
I can't hear you.
Yes, go ahead. You wanted to say something?
Just to say thank you very much for those wonderful compliments from Daryl. I've got a fan. Thank you.
Well, you have many, many fans. I know there's a lot of people that follow you. And my question, Sonia, is that on the subject of compliments, in 2013, you were awarded the British Empire Medal. Did this come as a surprise to you? Were you expecting something like this?
Absolutely not. To the extent that when they called me from the convent to tell me, I thought it was a joke. And thank God I didn't say anything strange, because it was actually from in the governor's name that they were calling me to let me know that I would be getting a letter to specify the date. And it was unbelievable. I didn't believe it at all. It was exciting. It was totally awesome, I must say. Didn't expect it. But Sonia, I do owe it to some friends of mine, I suppose, who voted me in for this, and I appreciate it a lot.
You deserve it, and everything that comes to you. You are an inspiration to many people. You have changed a lot of people's lives, possibly without even knowing it, without even being aware. We have Murad Widadi from Tetuan, who says, as an announcer, Miss Sonia, what do you believe is the best asset?
The best asset for an announcer?
Yes.
Well, I would say, first of all, being able to talk without planning everything, because there are moments when you plan how to present a show, for example, and something unexpected can happen, and you've got to have like the gift of the gab to be able to talk about different things that have not been planned. And I think the best asset is that. And also not to be shy of people, and mainly those two things, I would say. And a good
Sonia, what would your colleagues at GBC have said in those days of black and white improvisation television, that one day we would be able to transmit like we're doing from different countries simultaneously.
Wow, unbelievable. I mean, because I recall that when television came to Gibraltar, my grandmother, who was sitting at home watching it, would tell me, before I started working on TV, would tell me, sit properly because the lady's looking at you. So for her, it was unbelievable that that person who was talking to her in her own living room wasn't seeing her. But for us, it would have been the opposite. How could so many people see us when we were in Gibraltar and the rest of the world was watching? Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sonia, it is a delight to have you on our cultural exchange. It really has been a pleasure. I know that even in retirement, you continue to inspire people through your bosom buddies WhatsApp group every morning, like you greet each other. Carry on being the wonderful soul that you are. Never change. And thank you very much for being on our program.
That's the best thing you could say. Thank you very much, Henry. And thank you to the association, the cultural event that is going on today and will be going on in the next few months and so forth, for this opportunity. And I wish you at this moment in time a very happy and prosperous and of course, healthy 2021. Thank you.
And happy Feast of the Epiphany to all those celebrating it this evening and tomorrow. Thank you, Sonia. And it has been a pleasure to host you tonight live.
Bye. Thank you very much.
From the offices of the Gibraltar, Morocco, closer. Good night and stay safe.